Welcome to the bunker.
Preppers, survivalists, off-gridders, homesteaders, and the like. Welcome to the Preppers Bunker Podcast, a podcast for preppers. I am your host, Mark Thompson. We've got a great show for you. Tonight we have two returning special guests with us. Patrick Henry and Bobby Spags are here to dive deep into EMPs. But before we get to that, I want to tell you our story. Well, actually the beginning of our story. You see, it occurred to me that all this time you spent with me after the event, I've never really explained our origin story, so I've got one of our MAG members here to narrate it for us. Let's get started.
The Thompson family lived on 12 acres just outside a small town in western Missouri, close enough to Kansas City for the teens to still gripe about school, far enough that their garden and the old hand pump well actually mattered. Besides being a homesteader, Mark, 42, hosted the Preppers Bunker podcast. It was a podcast for preppers. After recording an EMP episode with special guests, Pat and Bobby, and learning about the 2008 commission report, Mark and his wife Sarah had spent the next weekend building their first real Faraday cage. A galvanized trash can lined with cardboard, sealed with duct tape, stuffed with spare Baofeng radios, a couple of old laptops, a solar charge controller, and the kids' glucose monitor for their diabetic daughter Riley. 14-year-old Riley and 16-year-old Ethan rolled their eyes at first. But after the family started training with their mutual assistance group, 6 other prepared families within a 30-mile radius, even the teens began to see the point. Every other Saturday they met at the old quarry for radio drills, trade skills, and what-if scenarios. Their MAG call sign was Bunker 6. On a warm Tuesday evening in late April, the family sat on the back porch eating Sarah's homemade lasagna. Mark was mid-sentence about tomorrow's podcast when the sky flashed white, brighter than any lightning they had ever seen. No thunder followed, just silence.
Ooh, that ain't good,
Mark mumbled. The power died first. Every light in the house went out all at once. The refrigerator compressor sighed, then stopped. Phones went black. The light at the end of their driveway was out, and in the living room, the TV popped once. It was the last sound it would ever make. The silence was deafening. It was the first time they heard the highway, some distance away. The air brakes of an 18-wheeler hissed as it coasted to a stop. Tires screeched, and the unmistakable crunch of bumpers getting to know each other. Riley huddled close to her brother Ethan. Both were staring at the sky. A commercial passenger jet at roughly 35,000 feet was no longer horizontal. There was no doubt in Mark's mind of what was taking place.
Mark, what is this?
And though his heart was sinking, his voice stayed calm as any father's should.
That was an EMP at high altitude. Guys, we've got to move. This ain't no drill. Ethan, Faraday protocol, just like we practiced. Go.
Ethan sprinted across the yard.
Sarah, Riley, you good?
Dad, what do we do?
Riley, you got this. What's your first job?
Get the bug-out bags?
Yes. And the second?
Go and help Mom?
That a girl. Now go.
Riley ran into the house. They moved like they had rehearsed it a dozen times. Riley grabbed the family's bug-out bags and backpacks from the hall closets, and one by one stacked them against the wall in the dining room. Ethan ran to the barn and flipped the manual disconnect to the off position on the generator, the one they had stored unplugged and inside a second, smaller Faraday cage. Sarah was in the kitchen, pulling Mylar bags of rice and beans and stacking them onto a rolling cart. Mark jumped off the porch and headed to the side of the old farmhouse. He pulled open the Bilko doors to the basement and went straight to the trash can Faraday cage. He cracked the lid and pulled out 2 hardened Baofeng radios, then keyed the mic on the encrypted channel that their MAG had agreed on months earlier.
Bunker 6, this is Thompson Actual. We are dark. Confirm status. Over.
Nothing but static. He tried again.
Bunker 6, this is Thompson Actual. We are dark. Confirm status. Over.
Just more static. The Thompsons got to know the other families in their mutual assistance group personally over the years. They spent a lot of time together, learned from one another. Mark trusted them. Then, one by one, voices answered.
This is Baker family. Our grid is down and vehicles dead, but we're whole. Heading to Rally Point Alpha. Over.
Wilson Farm Actual. Our solar panels look okay, but the inverter is toast. We'll be there in 30. Over.
The Thompson homestead was designated Rally Point Alpha because it was central to all the other members' primary locations. Ethan wanted to call it Area 51. Of course, he was overruled by the adults in the room. Within 40 minutes, the first two Mag families rolled up the gravel drive in 2 old diesel tractors pulling flatbeds and an 89 F-150 with a large horse trailer in tow. There was a sense of urgency, but not panic. They had practiced this scenario many times and knew the drill. Others rolled into Alpha Site one by one until their entire group was present and accounted for. The hours were a blur of work and quiet competence. Mark and 2 other dads strung up the spare solar panels they had kept disconnected and stored in the barn. Sarah and some others set up a hand-crank water filter station at the well. Ethan and Riley helped the Wilson kids dig a slit trench latrine behind the barn, something none of the teens had ever wanted to do until tonight. By midnight, they had hot coffee on a propane stove, a perimeter watch rotating every 2 hours, and a working shortwave net listening for any outside news. The reports that trickled in were grim. The burst had happened somewhere over central Kansas, high enough that the entire country was off-grid. They heard from the north and from the south and most of the east coast, but everything west of the high plains was silent. They had no idea of the status of the west coast. No cell service, no internet, no fuel pumps, no grocery resupply. Hospitals were already switching to diesel generators that would last maybe 48 hours. They could only imagine the chaos that was unfolding in the cities and suburbs. It's times like this that a bit of cognitive dissonance wouldn't be so bad. But instead, they doubled down on reality and started counting ammo. Inside the Thompson house, 2 small LED lanterns powered by the protected solar setup stayed on. The kids were scared, but they weren't helpless. Riley checked her glucose with the spare monitor from the cage and gave herself the last dose from the fridge stash they had rotated religiously. Her mom kept a log of her doses and crunched the numbers to plan a resupply. It was way too early to know how long this event would last, but every indication so far was bleak at best. They will need a plan B and probably a C and D before too long. By the 3rd morning, the reality had settled in like a heavy coat. The sky was still clear, the garden still green, but the distant city glow that used to light the southern horizon at night was gone. A faint column of smoke rose from the direction of Kansas City. It was too wide and too high to be caused by looting and riots alone, almost as if the entire city was burning to the ground. The full mag, all 6 families, gathered around the pavilion at the Thompsons' place at first light for what looked like a flea market. They pooled resources and traded goods. One family had extra antibiotics, another had workhorses, another had a treadle sewing machine and enough seed potatoes to feed everyone through next winter. Mark and Sarah stood on the porch steps with a mug of chicory coffee and looked at the circle of tired but determined faces.
We couldn't have done this without all those people. These are friends that just became family.
I agree, hun. It's very surreal. I can't help but think. Yesterday we were just crazy preppers who hosted a podcast. Today we're the reason that our kids are safe, with full bellies and hope for a future. The grid might be gone for months, maybe years, but we're gonna be just fine. We've got the skills, we've got our people, and we've got a plan.
The kids were at one of the tables looking at seeds when Riley turned and looked back at her dad. She smiled. Sarah slipped her hand into his. Far away, the wind carried the faint sound of a single tractor starting up. Maybe someone else's mag, somewhere down the county line, doing the exact same thing.
Other survivors?
That would be great,
Mark replied as he watched his kids working the tables. A canister holding sugar burst open just a few feet from Riley. Without warning, there was an explosion, then gunfire. Someone was in a fight, and it was close.
All right, boys. We've got work to do. I need 3 men, kitted up and ready. Meet me in 5 minutes at the main gate. We're going out on foot. The rest of you get the children and anyone not able to fight down in the cellar, then take defensive positions around the house. Ethan, I want you on overwatch, top of the barn. Take my 308 binos and a radio.
10-4, Dad, I'm on it.
The men disappeared into the tree line as Sarah turned to catch one last look at her husband.
Be safe, boys, and come back to us. We'll be praying for you.
The lights were still off across America, but in one small corner of Missouri, a family of 4 and those they chose to stand with were already turning the darkness into something that looked a lot like hope. In time, they would laugh together, cry together, and when necessary, fight together.
All right, so tonight we have 2 very special guests joining us, Patrick Henry and Bobby Spags from the Midwest Preparedness Project. Pat and Spags are here to talk with us tonight about my favorite subject. It's not really my favorite, but I do love it. EMPs, Electromagnetic Pulse, and what they are and how we can possibly try to attempt to prepare for, such a scenario. So, Pat, Spags, welcome to the show. How you guys doing? First of all, you know what? Before you tell me how you're doing, how's everything coming along with your festival? It's only going to be, another month?
Yeah, Keith, thank you very much for that. We really appreciate you guys having us on today. It's an honor and a blessing. We're grateful to be a part of this amazing show that you guys produce. So we're moving right along. Bobby has worked his ass off. Can I say ass? Can we say ass?
You can say everything you want.
So Bobby has worked his ass off to produce the most stellar lineup available. He's been knocking it out of the park, getting all of the pieces on the chessboard lined up. We are ready. I think we're 99.9% squared away. We have an operations meeting coming up next weekend to make sure all of the department and division heads are 100% in their areas respectively. We just held our MAG meeting, which we use monthly as an opportunity to shamelessly promote ourselves in the Midwest Preparedness Project, which it was really cool. Local news station showed up. They filmed the opportunity, stuck us on the 9 o'clock news and the 8 o'clock news this morning, hyping our festival up. So we've got local producers, we've got local entrepreneurs, local news stations all catching wind of this thing. So it's ramping up to be one of the best festivals we've ever had.
That is outstanding, man. You guys got on the news. That's awesome.
Yeah. You know what? In fact, it's better still because Bobby was able to secure a local boxer. So John Cantrell is the 8th ranked IBF ABO heavyweight boxer in the United States, but he also just happens to be the sportscaster for the local Fox network. And John will be our keynote speaker Friday, the 9th. Is that right, Bobby?
The 9th. Or no, the 8th. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think Friday is the 8th.
Yep. John will be our keynote speaker. And he's rumored to be bringing his news, cadre with him. So it's going to be exciting.
Well, is he going to speak about preparedness?
Yeah. He's going to talk about, what is it, Bobby?
His talk is called Faith, Family, and Fortitude,
Yep.
Preparing for the Future.
Yep.
Nice.
So yeah, he's like Patrick said, he's a champion boxer. He's got a really good rags to riches story. He came up from hardship and bettered himself, and now he's a heavyweight champion. He just got back from a fight in Mexico this past weekend too, I believe, and he'll be speaking Friday afternoon.
Well, Rhonda and I are excited to get out there. We can't wait. I know Buddy just said, last week or so, we had our meeting, that he might not be able to make it. He's what he's saying now. So I don't know. I guess he's got things going on. But we're really excited about it. Once again, before we jump into this episode, give us the dates for your project.
Spring Festival is going to be May 5th through the 10th. Gates open at noon on Tuesday the 5th. Bring your families, bring all your friends, bring your animals. The website is MidwestPreparednessProject.com. Please go on there if you plan to come and RSVP. It's the only way we can count attendance because at this point we still don't charge admission to the event. We're expecting somewhere between 400 and 600 people depending on how things shake up with weather. But yeah, come out on Tuesday on the 5th. set up, pitch your tent, put your RV up, put your camper up, whatever you want to do.
Go down the lake and fish.
You don't even have to camp. You could come and get a hotel. There are some people who come to the VRBOs and the hotels in Lawrence and Topeka, and they just cart in every day.
Just a 20-minute
That's a great
drive to
idea.
Lawrence.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, Lawrence is 20 minutes away, and you have every modern convenience that you could spoil yourself, or better yet, your wife with, because she doesn't like mosquitoes.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Nice.
gonna be awesome.
No, that's great. All right, so tonight we're talking about EMPs, and we have tried to book this a few times, and things have failed and gone other different ways. And I think you guys were sick, we were this, we were that, who knows? But when we are now together to talk about EMPs, and this is one of those prepper survivalist / tinfoily hat type of things. But you know what? It's really out of the tinfoil hat game at this point, because EMPs are the real deal, and it's a current real problem that could actually happen. So let's start with this. For the total newbie out there, one of you guys explain what an EMP is.
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question. Thank you again, Keith. So Bobby and I, it's a little backstory. Bobby and I have lived in the EMP electromagnetic pulse spectrum over the last 5 to 10 years, roughly. We both helped start and stand up a company that produces technology that helps to mitigate electromagnetic pulse, a company called EMP Shield. I currently sit on the board of directors. Bobby and I helped both build distribution channels for that organization all throughout the United States, from Miami, Florida to Colorado. We've been all over setting up booths, trying to spread the word. But for those people that are new to the concept of EMP, there was a thing, an event that happened in 1859 that we now reverently call the Carrington event. And during the Carrington event, it was a global, basically a solar flare that smacked the Earth and wiped out at the time what was all of the communications equipment from Europe to the United States. People that were sending messages and dispatching at the time, they had their heads fried, their wires caught fire, caused massive forest fires all across the northern hemisphere, just from a single little wimpy, I think it was a class 3, class 2 solar flare. So basically what EMP is that during the 1940s through 1960s, when we started exploding nuclear technology, they ran a gambit of exercises called Starfish Prime. And during the Starfish Prime experiments, they realized that not only does a nuclear weapon create massive destruction, it also generates this pulse wave that destroys any I guess it would be, what is it called?
Non-primitive, anything that's electronic.
Well, it's your old tubes, your old tube-style communication and tube-style electrical equipment. So any of your modern electrical equipment that has your silicon arsenide or silicone components all fried instantaneously. So they started weaponizing that, and now today they have directional EMP, where this is seen deployed like with Israel and some of these other potential opportunities from 4th gen, 5th gen warfare models. They have directional EMP where they can literally target a specific building, specific floor, or your vehicle and EMP your vehicle from a distance.
Do you think that I just put 2 and 2 together. Do you think that's what happened in Venezuela?
They admitted it, admittedly so. So they actually used acoustic weaponry in Venezuela, but I'm sure it was a combination of acoustic and EMP weaponry.
They shut everything down. There's actual video of one of our ships firing a laser of some variety off the shore, and it killed all their technology. So either A, it was high particle beam that was bright enough and strong enough to fry an antenna, or 2, it was something that's in the correct spectrum where it just created a micro electromagnetic pulse that temporarily disabled all of their communication.
Right. So that's isn't that like the and I'm a total ignorant person when it comes to all this, but isn't that what they call like an E1? It's that takes out
E1
that
phase, correct. There's E1 phase, E2, E3 phase of an EMP, and the E1 is the initial high frequency or the high bombardment, high speed, just bam, so fast. We're talking nanoseconds worth of, or microseconds worth of a pulse of electricity that's so fast it basically defeats the average surge protector.
Wow. So, and this is a straight line gamma rays, right? So we're talking about, 200-300 miles up above the air. You set one of these off, and it can take out an entire country in light speed seconds, milliseconds.
Yes.
It really depends. I mean, it's all theoretical because, again, nobody's really been hit on a global warfare model EMP delivery system. So this is all speculative and it's all theoretical. But yes, there are 2 North Korean satellites that orbit the central United States every 92 minutes, and we are pretty sure those are not communication satellites. We're pretty sure that those are weaponized opportunities just waiting to be happened. But yes, so if you, again, per Peter Pry, God rest his soul, or Dr. Bill Radasky, if there were to be a nuclear detonation anywhere from 2 to 20 miles above the central United States or Kansas, which happens to be where we live, it would knock out 90 to 99% of all electronics across the United States in a line of sight radius.
Let me ask you all a question, because this is actually a question that I've been asked before, and I don't know the truest answer. Let's just say, kind of like 1 second after, right? A waterborne projectile is launched, pretty much over the United States. If we had enough warning and you were able to remove batteries, where you were able to, say, disconnect vehicles from their battery source, or, kind of like that. If you had enough time to basically remove either the battery or the component that provides power, would it still have the same effect on something that's not currently connected to electronic, some kind of, power?
The general rule is that anything connected to the grid, to power sources, is vulnerable. However, there are certain weapons that we know that Russia specifically has developed. And the theory behind those weapons is that they're big enough to where just the induction rate of those particleized ions is enough to fry non-connected stuff. It's all, most of this is theoretical, and it's all based on science. It's based on scientists putting things into, theoretical models and then running the numbers. The average weapon that would be used for an EMP, atomic, nuclear, all that sort of stuff, will fry everything connected to the grid to a power source, which is why you have to have products that interrupt the power source. The reigning thought process is that if it's something not connected to a power source, it could potentially survive, which is why Faraday cages work and Faraday bags, because they interrupt the signal. It's why you can take a radio and put it into a correctly created Faraday cage, and it no longer receives signal. You've interrupted the method of communication, the method of conducting that overage into the device. So the short answer is we don't know everything, but what we know enough is if you are connected into the system, you're going to get hit. Most likely, if you're not connected to the system, it depends if you're a closed system with a full loop, like a car, which is a DC system, or a house, which is on its own. Let's say you're on solar with an inverter, and you don't have a method of interrupting the signal with shunting with like an EMP shield. You will still take the overage because it inducts from all direction. So even your solar array, while the panel itself will not be fried by an EMP,
the wiring inside it,
will induce all those freed electrons, and they travel through the path of least resistance, which is the wiring back into your house.
And Jeremy, the mode of transportation in this regard, like most people don't understand basic electronics, and that energy doesn't flow through the wire; it travels around the exterior of the wire. So around the outside of that metal, between the sheeting and that copper wire that's running inside that cabling, that's where the actual induction is going to happen, and it's going to funnel that to the path of least resistance, right? Bobby's got a fantastic story about his house where it was struck by lightning, and lightning is essentially the equivalent of an E1 phase of EMP. It's so fast, so hard. It's like a pinprick of energy, with with infinite amounts of jewels behind it. But Bobby's tree in his front yard. Well, Bobby, you tell the story.
Yeah, I actually sent the pictures of this over to you guys on Signal. Late last year, my neighbor's tree, which is probably 25 feet from my house, got a quadruple lightning strike. It hit 4 times very quickly. And it caught the tree on fire. And our house, there was a quaint blue kind of a spark from the arc of the electricity hitting over to us. And I have an EMP shield on my house. And everything kind of went blue for a very, very, very short amount of time, split second, and then life went on as normal. Well, I went down and I opened my breaker box and I looked at the EMP shield, and sure as shit, there's leg 1 and leg 2 because it attaches to the bus bars on both sides of your breaker box. Leg 1 was completely shut down. Light was out, everything. The leg 2, the light was still on. So that's how fast an E1 takes place. Then you have your E2 phase and your E3 phase when it comes to an EMP proper or even a CME. But that lightning strike is pretty much E1 all the way. And so, yeah, I watched it happen in real time. I was on my front porch. It was the loudest thing I'd ever heard, and I've been in foreign, theaters of combat and around guns all my life. This was the loudest thing I'd ever heard, and it scared the shit out of me and my wife, who was on the front porch having a cigarette. I was out there, watching the dog, and all of a sudden, bam, just 4 of them real quick.
Yeah.
Protected the whole house.
Yeah. I was just laying down for a nap about 1.5 years ago, and lightning struck the tree in our front yard. And we never had those problems until the electrical company came out several years ago and put in one of their green, the green
Smart
boxes.
meters.
Yeah. So we got a big one out there along with a street light that we never asked for but have to pay for. And we ended up having to take the whole tree down. I think it was just last year that we had to get rid of it finally because it had been struck by lightning 3 different times. So, but to continue on that same sort of like path of question, let's just say you had very short warning. You go to unplug something, say like your laptop, right?
Yes.
And you've got it completely shut down, but I don't know. I know, like for me, I know we have a charger where you can unplug it from the wall and there is still some latent power still going through that particular chart. Like it's got a blue light on it, it's got like a junction box essentially. Could that latent power that's still remaining while it's, kind of like waning away, could that still be enough of a problem to cause an overload?
Jeremy, it's going to happen no matter what. So whether it's plugged in or not plugged in, whether it has a residual charge and a capacitor or not is kind of a moot point, because again, what's going to happen is when that EMP bounces off the ionosphere, comes back down, smacks into your garage, your business, your house, your radio equipment, whatever it is, it's going to excite that equipment whether it's plugged in or not. So like Bobby was talking earlier, if it's not properly grounded or if it's not properly shielded, it's going to be excited by those freed electrons anyway. It doesn't matter if it's plugged in or not.
Yep. Everything's an antenna. Yeah. Everything that's electronic is an antenna, and it will induce those freed electrons.
Yeah,
and that's that's the important things. When you said freed electrons, that happens instantly in the air. It like frees the electrons from the actual air.
It does, and then it shoots them in like a random shotgun pattern back in a 360-degree arc. Again, this is a line of sight event, right? So again, kind of like your ham radio signals that bounce off the ionosphere and come back, so is an EMP. And that's where the E2 and E3 become far more dangerous, in my opinion, than the E1. E1, like Bobby said, it's fast and it's hard. It's like that prom kid, that kid on prom night. And the E2 and E3 is much more like a gentle lover. Like they take their time.
Yes, but all 3 can happen in one weapon.
They can.
Yes.
And
it not only can, it will.
Yeah, it will.
An actual weapon, a weaponized EMP will have all 3 phases, all of them.
Yeah, the E2 can last for minutes. The E1 is over almost in a matter of seconds. The E2 can last for minutes or hours, and the E3 can last for weeks or months. Think of the ionosphere as like a bubble, right, around the planet. And when those free electrons hit the ionosphere, they're going to cause that bubble to ripple. And as they bounce off the ionosphere and then bounce back to the Earth and then bounce back to the ionosphere, it'll do that until the energy dissipates. And every time it does that, that wave, think of it like a microwave. Every time it slows down, it's not going to lose power, it's just going to lose speed. So if you stuck your hand in a furnace for a millisecond versus if you stuck your hand in a furnace for 3 minutes, that's the type of effect that we're talking about.
That's a good way to look at it. Yep.
Okay.
You said earlier that you guys you sat on a board for something, and I kind of just glazed over my head here. Can you explain that one more time? You said you were on an EMP board?
Yeah. So it's a fantastic story. This is all, again, attached to the Midwest Preparedness Project. We believe in providence. Bobby and I, we talk about it all the time. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm convinced that we drift in and out of each other's lives exactly when we're meant to. And about 8 years ago now, through one of the campouts that we host with the Midwest Preparedness Project, this redneck, brilliant, genius scientist, mad scientist, shows up to the campout, and he tells us about this technology that shouldn't exist. We're like, okay, this guy's crazy, but we do some soul searching. And my wife and I, we go to dinner with this guy and his wife, which his wife happens to be Filipino. My mom's Filipino. So we're sharing recipes and things like that. And next thing I know, we raised $2.2 million. We buy the IP, we stand the company up, and we launch this company called EMP Shield. And now they're $55, $60 million of assets under management. I helped found the company, helped seed the company, and I still sit on and serve on the board of directors for that company. Did we lose you guys?
I'm sitting here talking and I'm muted. I gotta set off the old mute gauge.
Dang, we missed it.
Such an idiot.
I was sitting there following
total
that,
rookie.
and I was like, that's good. Silence.
So at some point, like with me, EMP went from conspiracy, tinfoil hat stuff to actually this is something that keeps me up at night. Did that happen for you as well?
Oh, it did. It was a light switch for me because, again, at the time I'd read 1 Second After and books like that, and I was enthralled with the story of John and 1 Second After, and I would put myself in that role, when his daughter is running out of insulin, and he's like, I'll blow the water main if you don't give me the last vial of insulin. I could feel that. And so, yes, it very much went from, conspiracy and movies to factual. Bobby and I we met Dr. Bill Radasky. He is the world's most renowned electromagnetic pulse expert who talks about this. This guy, he talks at Congress. He talks on all levels of the government, advises all of the Joint Chiefs on the potentials and probability of EMP devastation across the United States. And it's very much universal that everyone above, your general legislature, they've heard of and they know about EMP. But the problem is, how do they make a profit off of it? How do they convert that into, re-election dollars? Or how do they make a buck being on the board of whatever company that is producing this and selling it back to the plebes like the rest of us?
Yeah, and I remember Trump talking about, who I'm a fan of and I voted for. I remember him talking about on the campaign trail about the EMP hardening off the systems and how he's got a plan for it. He knows somebody with a plan for it, and it really wouldn't cost that much money. And then I haven't heard anything from it. Then it just kind of went by the, it's just gone. The talks are gone.
Well,
we pushed that narrative. So Bobby and I were driving that whip as hard as we could, 4 to 5 years ago. And, when President Trump had his first, pass through the White House, he passed Executive Order 13865, which directed the states to take the onus on themselves, use federal tax dollars, incentives, grants, etc., to make sure that they protected their states and constituents from the threat of EMP. This was like 5 to 6 months before he left office and turned it over to the incoming regime. And once the next regime took over, they pretty much nullified that and wiped it out, and then started the Chips for America Act. And and all of that fell by the wayside. And since then, it's fell off the radar. It's on the back burner. Now we're talking about blocking the Strait of Hormuz, and we're taking out Venezuelan dictators rather than protecting our own damn constituents here in the United States.
That's how I feel about it. It's there's a lot of things that I know it takes time, and this president has got a lot on his plate. I get that. But
it was 1.1.
Damn it, that wasn't the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, 1.1 to 1.3 trillion dollars was the speculative number range of protecting all of the critical infrastructure throughout the United States, and that is a daunting number. But to be fair, like during the George Bush campaign, we lost $16 trillion right before the Pentagon got hit by an airplane / missile.
Yes.
You're talking about 9/11.
We just got canceled.
I wasn't going to say it, but I mean, you said it for me, so yeah, sure.
Oh, because I remember Donald Rumsfeld talking about losing, like, I don't know, $3 trillion the following day, right after 9/11, and nobody talks about it.
We don't talk about the unfunded liabilities that came up missing as well. When they cleared the register, it was somewhere between 8 and 18 trillion that ended up disappearing.
Yeah, and you know what? We can go on and on about that whole rabbit hole at some point. It's like, follow the money trail. Where did it go? Who's to blame? All this other stuff. But while buildings are on fire in New York City and gone, they're on they're on total transparency. They're on the news saying, yeah, we happen to lose $3 trillion. But anyway, on to what's happening today.
They call it, I think they call it sleight of hand. If you watch what my right hand's doing, you'll never see what my left hand's doing.
Well, the EMP discussion has been a topic for, let's see. When did they finally realize that nuclear weapons could potentially cause an EMP?
The late 1945.
So 1945 is when they actually dropped the bomb. But what my big concern is aircraft, like aircraft that are currently in the air, flying around and doing their thing. Aren't they just going to drop out of the sky?
That's a good question, man. Can you guys talk about that?
Yeah, most of the commercial aircraft are not protected. What we do know is that next gen aircraft are. So everything basically from the F-15 Echo up is naturally shielded. At least that's the claim. That
your 35s.
Yeah, your 22s, your 35s, your F-15Es, all that are supposed to be naturally shielded so that they cannot be knocked out of the sky. Now, I don't know that they've tested it. I'm unaware.
How do you test it? How would you test it without hurting anything else?
Do you fly a super expensive airplane into the sky and hit it just to see what happens?
I saw these tests. These tests are available. They did talk about this a while back. They what they do is just like they do the stratospheric test where they test for aerodynamics. They will put these in an EMP chamber and then induce EMP pulses into the plane to see how it affects the electronics inside the plane, whether the avionics fail, the electronics, the communications equipment fail. And that's supposedly their litmus test for, whether or not these things will survive an EMP. Same with Air Force One. Think of it this way, like there's an alternator on every single gasoline, powered engine, right? And those gasoline-powered engines that have an alternator or have some type of device for recharging or keeping the battery up to power, has several hundred or several thousand feet of copper wire wound around the stator, which generates a small electromagnetic, energy generation. Those thousands or hundreds of feet of copper wire inside that alternator, they're going to induce those electrons, and they will fail.
Yeah, I have no faith in the Humvee to survive. I mean, the Humvee is a tough vehicle. Don't get me wrong. The old 1025s and 1026s are great. And the 114s and all the up-armored stuff that came later were a little more complicated. But I don't know that the mesh that they put on the outside and the grounding would be sufficient. Yeah. But I do agree with your assessment that you could pull components out fairly easily and swap them out for components that were not connected and did not induce, and probably re-up them, but it would take some time. I mean, that it would still be a major hampering for the armed forces if their vehicles went down even for a week while they figured out how to rewire them.
Jeremy, Keith, have you guys seen, for instance, you've probably seen an ambulance driving through town or a fire truck driving through town, and they have chains hanging down underneath the vehicle, touching the pavement. Have you guys seen that?
Mm-hmm.
That's
No,
exactly
I've
what
never
that's
seen that.
for.
Is that like a grounding thing?
That's exactly it. Yeah. So the rubber tires insulate the vehicle from being properly grounded. And so a lot of times they'll add chains that drag along behind or underneath the vehicle that help guide it. And the reason why they do that is if they run over down power lines, or if their boom, on a fire truck, it accidentally, comes into contact with a power line, it will ground that and send that energy into the ground versus into the people inside the vehicle, in the path of least resistance. So your standard military vehicle does not have that type of grounding capability, and it basically becomes its own little microwave.
Yeah, and that's the inverse of that is exactly how I got electrocuted and launched about 30 feet in Afghanistan. So,
So you know exactly what we're talking about, Jeremy.
Yeah. Long story short, conducting a sling load operation, which is when you attach a piece of equipment or a load to be taken away by rotary wing helicopter. The guy that was with me claimed to be good at what he does, and I had him on top of this large metal box, and he hooked his end and he jumped off the box, and I was left holding not only my end to hook up, but also this thing that we call a static discharge rod. Yep. And I had a choice. So I hooked my end, and I tried to do basically a judo kick to kick this rod, and I kicked it away, and it didn't quite go far enough, and it hit that metal box, and the day became even brighter, and I got launched significantly far and landed and completely destroyed my left shoulder. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Oh, that explains everything.
But that was only my sixth.
That?
Yeah, that was only my sixth TBI. So that wasn't even like
wow. Honestly, Jeremy, you're lucky to have all your appendages, all 11 of them.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I did pee my pants a little bit. So
okay, yeah. fair, totally fair.
Yeah, understandable.
So, guys, talk to me about other ways that an EMP or an HEMP can be delivered, except aside from, let's say, a nuclear weapon. Is there any other way that this can happen? And on top of that, do we have any adversaries who have the capability or the knowledge to do this?
Yeah, there's several theories right now, and of course, again, it's all theories because none of them have ever been delivered and used. But there are directed energy weapons. They started out very rudimentary with things like the LRAD and other long-range acoustic and light devices that were the kind of the first things fielded. But now we know that the United States and Israel have directed energy weapons that are basically laser weapons that they use for defense.
It's a space laser.
It's a space laser. And they use these to, they were both just showcased in the current conflict in Iran with shooting down incoming drones and incoming rockets and missiles and things like that. And a space laser is not quite the same as, or even a directed energy weapon is not quite the same as an EMP because you don't have all three phases, but it is akin to the E1 where you have a very large discharge of energy in a very pinpointed and targeted zone that allows you to target what you want to hit and knock it out of the sky. So when these lasers are being used and employed against incoming, let's say, Iranian drones or Iranian rockets or, Hezbollah or whatever.
Or your 13th floor of your high-rise building.
Right. It's very pinpoint. You can dial that in and you can hit things incoming. There are rumors and there are rumblings about directed energy weapons that are in space that we and, let's say, China have invented. In fact, the North Korean satellites that do traverse the globe very quickly, that we started to track years and years ago, are rumored to have something on them. And there's a rumor whether it's just a nuclear capable satellite or whether it's a directed item. We don't know. At least the public doesn't know. I'm sure that our Department of War knows. I'm sure that other departments know. But yes, you don't have
Elon knows.
Yes, Elon knows. I think that's why Elon is in such a hurry to get the hell off the planet.
I don't blame him.
He realizes that we're going to screw things up. But yes, there are theoretical ways in which an EMP can be delivered without a nuclear weapon.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is something we have to consider. The world has how many thousands of nuclear weapons amongst the nuclear club? And this is why EMP is so dangerous as opposed to mutually assured destruction, the old, everybody launches everything. I don't personally believe that in 2026, the average dictator, the average president, the average prime minister wants to launch nuclear weapons, irradiate vast swaths of the earth, destroy infrastructure, and create a scenario in which we have to rebuild from zero after waiting enough time for it to be safe to even re-engage. I think this is why EMP, to your point earlier, Keith, is so much more terrifying because it's what's known as the bloodless weapon. If any nation, whether it's us or Russia or China or North Korea or whoever, detonates an atomic weapon or a nuclear weapon high enough in the atmosphere to where it affects an entire nation. I mean, think about nations in the nuclear club like France, England, Australia, Israel, that are the size of New Jersey or the size of Texas. It would take nothing to wipe that entire country off the planet electronically using an EMP. America's a little bit different. Russia's a bit different because we're much larger in our span. You could do it with some large weapons. You could launch one EMP and take out the United States or a vast swath of Russia. But England could be gone in a matter of a millisecond. So could France.
This is the reason why we wanted to try and tame Iran, because they would easily take out several countries in one shot if they were able to get their hands on a weapon.
They could take out the entire Middle East's oil coalition. They could take out UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Israel, all of that stuff at one time. Very easy.
And the fear for me, not for me, but for the, I guess, the world would be that they don't do it for taking over the land or taking over the people. They do it for their God.
Right.
Sure.
It's a war.
Big difference.
It's a war of complete conviction, which is why they're not afraid to die, which makes them very dangerous.
You're not fighting. You're not fighting a people.
There are very strong rumors that during Trump's first campaign, the reason why we had the majority of tariffs and embargoes, we had container ships. Do you guys remember this? There were thousands of container ships that were stuck in port, not able to offload their goods from basically 2018 through 2020.
I do remember that. Yes, yes.
And the speculation is that these container ships, they weren't necessarily, it wasn't COVID related. It wasn't any of those other things. They were actually looking for hypothetical or realistic launching platforms that had been weaponized on cargo ships.
Well, China recently unveiled they had it. They showed it. They showed it on social media. They had a whole cargo ship where 4 of the connexes opened up, and it was a launch platform with rockets.
Yeah, here we are 6 years later, and China says, yeah, we have this. We have these. We can launch these from our ship. So, we were actually putting these people out to port because we were actually looking for nuclear launch capabilities, because it doesn't have to come from a submarine anymore. It can come from a port somewhere in Dallas, Texas, that you can't react to.
Wait a minute, there's a port in Dallas, Texas?
You know what I mean? No, the Gulf of America. Sorry, Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. Yes. Wow, Houston. We must have had a tsunami of magnificent proportions.
Houston,
to get
to
to
we have a problem.
I love it.
I think personally that the use of an EMP against us in particular is probably a lot more realistic because of the value that the United States holds.
Correct.
In resources, not just mineral or oil, but think about what we can grow here as compared to other places in the world.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, I think it's probably more of a viable option because, let's just say somebody was like, yep, we're going to war with the US, today, like today we're going to go ahead and start this fight. I don't think they really want to like actually like destroy the country, like the actual country, get rid of all of us, and then they come in and take what we have. So I think that
why would you irradiate something and have to send your own people in to then reclaim the resources 10 years later, or let them die in their mop suits that don't work? You know, like I absolutely agree with you on that. It's much more feasible to knock a country's capabilities out. And what we also know, we know this from doctrine. We know that China and Russia specifically, and probably us too, have what's called the 5-stage doctrine, where you hit somebody with an EMP, with a high altitude EMP. You wait about a week and you do it again. And then you wait about 2 weeks and you do it again, because every time the country starts to bring itself back up, you hit them again and you hit them again and you hit them again. And there's no radiation. Radiation doesn't work that way. All you're doing is destroying every single iteration of the rebuilding to the point you cripple a country to the point of surrender.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I'm wondering, though, and I've heard this statistic more than once, where if we as a country, specifically United States, got hit by a sizable EMP, that 90% of our population would be dead within a year. I've heard that many times. I mean, because I think about the health challenges that we have here in our country as compared to other places around the world. And, you know, quite honestly, we are a significantly obese, fat country. And I can see that, because, like, you got to think people with pacemakers, people with stimulators that are, you know, surgically implanted into their heads.
Just insulin that requires refrigeration.
Yeah, insulin, you know, that whole thing. I could see, you know, a lot of that. People who were in medical comas, you know, or you know, anything that's a life-saving measure all of a sudden being shut off without the ability to bring the backup on power. That alone. I mean,
Jeremy,
go ahead.
We've had these conversations. So I've actually met Dr. William Forstchen. We did a podcast together a few years back on the Power Hour. And so Bill and I, we spent about an hour kind of going through these scenarios. And it's fascinating that you bring this up. Again, he's been, and Newt Gingrich and Dr. Peter Pry, Bill Radasky, they've been screaming this from the rooftops to Congress, to Senate, to sitting presidents, anyone who would listen. This is the incoming Pearl Harbor event that we're not looking for. This is the punch out of the back of the room that is going to knock us out. And unfortunately, if you don't do something about this now, you're going to be the person in charge that, you know, is going to take that black eye throughout history. And you're right. It's not just those people that have pacemakers. Think of it like this, Jeremy. Everyone who is on antidepressants, everyone who is chemically dependent on alcohol, fentanyl, fill in the blank, antidepressants, those people are going to lose their shit when all these chemicals are no longer produced and then put back out into the public so that they can function as normal. Just in the sense that right now you have this thing. We play a game every month on our YouTube channel called Without Rule of Law. Yeah. It's a fantastic game made by Practical Survival. But basically the point of this game is to go through exercises where if the rule of law were to stop or cease in the United States, it's a scenario-based game based on, like, what do you think would happen and how would you react to this? Most people right now are inherently good, right? Or neutral at the very least. But there are a lot of people that if they were unchecked and did not have to worry about the local law enforcement or some type of retribution, if they were just turned over to their basic instincts, they would become complete animals, like assholes, just doing the most abhorrent things.
I can't tell you that I'm not one of them.
Not just you.
I don't know, because I know that I will need stuff for my family. I would need stuff, and I'm going to get stuff. I can't tell you. I want to say that I would be good, and you know, all that, but I can't promise you that.
Well, I'll just tell you,
that's 100% my point. So, like, the last 400 years of warfare have taught us just exactly that. You look at any of the genocides that have transpired throughout history. And this is a known fact. My mother was raised in the Philippines during the Ferdinand Marcos regime, and she tells stories that are fit for movies. And this is a fact we know to be 100% true. Good people will do horrible things when their children are suffering.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's like
Well,
that.
just imagine if they were to do this in the winter. You know, the one thing that dictators or would-be dictators have learned over time is that cold and hungry is a powerful motivator.
Oh, very much.
The worst time for the target, the best time for the aggressor would be just before Christmas. Everyone's traveling, a lot of people away from home. All the internet is going abuzz with shopping. Centers of finance are making money. Bam, right then. This is the whole need to build mags. This is why Midwest Preparedness is so intent on creating local mags everywhere. We have one in Topeka. We have one in Lee Summit. We're going to open more chapters eventually.
Wait, you got one at Lee Summit? That's not terribly far from me. That's only about an hour.
Yeah, we have our local chapter president, Kyle Benoit. He runs the Lee Summit chapter of Midwest Preparedness. You can find it.
Chartered that last year?
Yeah, we chartered it last year. It was the first mag that we chartered outside of the initial Topeka flagship mag. But you can go on Facebook and find the Lee Summit mag. You can find the Topeka mag on the main page. We're about to create a Facebook page for that as well. But the plan is to build a series of mags across the area and start networking that out further and further with that kind of that concentric circle ripple effect we talked about before. If you have the time now, which you should, if you can put the remote down long enough and stop spending ridiculous amounts of money to go to football games and concerts and all this other stuff and take life seriously, even for a little bit, you could start networking with other people right now. And get out of your comfort zone right now.
Yep.
And start doing all the things that you can do to become better prepared today than you were yesterday. And even a little bit's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So find a mag. Go online. There are mags everywhere. I mean, shit.
Tell them what a mag is.
A mag is a mutual assistance group. It's a local meetup where people who are relatively like-minded come together and learn to do things together. That's what we do with ours. We have 2 of them. And we put on classes once a month. We had one mag, one of the first mags. You guys processed like dozens upon dozens of pounds of chicken.
2,000 pounds of macaroni noodles.
2,000 pounds of macaroni noodles. Everybody came together and just processed macaroni noodles and learned how to use
long-term food storage,
oxygen absorbers and Mylar and seal meals and all this kind of stuff. And then another time they got together and they butchered a bunch of chickens and everybody got to leave with some meat that they went home with. And
yep.
This last one we had a doctor of naturopathy come out and talk about gardening and what plants to plant next to each other, how to reduce weeds and pests and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So find a mag, find a mutual assistance group, even if it's not your personal quote unquote bug out group, your inner circle of people you plan to ride the storm out with together in an intimate way. You can certainly find people in your area that you can learn to network with and rely on. And you can start to fill those gaps in your own personal preps. Like some guys are really good at radio. I'm not good at radio, but there are guys who are really good at radio. I'm really good at, smelting and guns and trading and bartering and creating networks and all this other stuff. I'm really good at carpentry and some other stuff. We can all find ways to network and fill those gaps for each other. So when something like an EMP were to happen, it won't be quite so daunting because at least you can wake up in a world that's dark knowing that you have friends that can bring the light.
100%. And Jeremy, Keith, if our listeners that pick up this podcast down the road or tomorrow or whenever it comes out, if they don't have a local mag or if they don't know how to build a local mag, reach out to us. We have conversations with people all the time. Between Spags and myself, we field dozens and dozens of emails, phone calls, text messages, Facebook, Discord, you name it. We would love to help you. In fact, one of our missions and the tenets of the Midwest Preparedness Project is to help proliferate people in their local network to build or maintain a mutual assistance group. Because kind of like in the movie, have you guys seen World War Z with Brad Pitt?
Yep, it's one of my favorite movies.
The mantra in that was every person they save is one less person they have to fight, right? We're in the same boat. So the way Bobby and I look at it from a holistic view is that every person that we're capable of helping from a holistic all the way down to a practical sense is one less person that we have to worry about raiding us down the road, especially if we're building those concentric rings of preparedness now. We have anywhere from 30 to 100 people that participates monthly in our MAG meetings, and they have the exact same mentality that you do there. I'm not sure where to start, but I have these resources at my disposal. I have a doctor, I have a mechanic, I have an electrician, I have a buddy that's good at woodworking or smelting, but I don't know how to put those components together so that, we form Voltron and make this really cool robot. It's very, very simple. Reach out to us. We would love to help you. In fact, Bobby and I, we've been talking about writing a book on building mags, building groups, building those concentric rings of preparedness that help the average person from, the single mom to the guy that's, former military that has all of these skills and resources, but is not really good at networking, helping those people transition into the next phase of having a mutual assistance group.
Well, we've also done it kind of across the country too. We have Midwest Preparedness, but we also have what's called the Great American Preparedness Tour that we started. And so we link up with groups in Camden, Tennessee, and Bowling Green, Kentucky. We have Kentucky Sustainable Living, and we have Self-Reliance Festival. Self-Reliance Festival, hell, they sponsor us. You have Nicole Sauce, who runs Hollow Roast, and John Willis from Special Operations Equipment, who makes, in my opinion, the best tactical nylon you can buy. They're friends of ours. We've met them by going out and networking across the country, and now they sponsor us. We sponsor them. We have guys like Harrison Shooter Supply here locally. He's a local gun shop. He gives me a gun every time we have a giveaway. Every time we do an event, he gives me a gun to give away.
You guys know the dudes from SOE?
Oh, yeah. John Willis and I are friends.
Bobby and I have taken tours through his personal...
I've got pictures and pictures of me and John doing all kind of stuff.
I wouldn't call it a trophy room. It's more of like
it's a museum of oddities.
Yeah, a hall of eccentricities.
The guy has more stuffed giraffes in his workout room than you would see in a zoo.
I like his Egyptian collection. He's got like some weird Muslim, like Egyptian mummy stuff. He's got some really cool stuff.
But yeah, I've been out to John's compound now probably 5 times, and I get to go in and hang out with him and all this stuff. So yeah, John Willis and I are buddies. We're giving away the last ATAX foliage green full micro rig set that he ever made away at our spring event. Yeah, and it's going to be fully loaded by the guys at the Lee Summit Mag and the Pantry and a few of the other guys over in the Kansas City. They loaded this thing full. So the Dangler, the Fupa's got a full medical kit in it. It's going to have 40-round AR mags and all kind of stuff.
Jeremy, Bobby is so humble. Like it's not even, you wouldn't even believe the bromance that these two dudes have. I made a meme here a while back of Bobby's up on stage. He's doing MC work for John.
I MC work. I do MC work for Nicole and John all the time.
Yeah, he was doing MC work this particular summer. We're down there hanging out with John in Camden. And Bobby's up on stage announcing people, and John is looking up at Bobby, and it looks like the way a fat kid looks at a jelly donut. And I made this meme. It was fantastic. I was like, find you someone who looks at you like the way John looks at Bobby. It was spectacular.
Hell yeah!
But that's John donates.
That's how I look at Snickers.
Yeah.
Speaking of Snickers, we talk about Snickers too. Like EMP and having an EMP protection device. If you don't have one or if you do have one during an EMP, you're going to look like a Snickers bar at a weight loss convention. That's right.
All right, hold on. So let's not go too far off the rail because we got to come towards the end of the show. Okay? So let's quit the Snickers. First of all, it's my favorite candy bar. Stop talking about it. And number 2, I want you guys to real quick realistically paint what the first 60 seconds look like after an EMP hit on the United States for everyone.
The first 60 seconds are going to look identical to the previous 60 seconds. People will not know what happens. All of a sudden, cars stop working, cell phones go offline. You might see something run into something, and people are going to have that first initial what happens. It's going to be so fast that your brain will probably not recognize what's happening. Now, if you're in a major metropolitan area, say like Chicago, New York, Austin, Dallas, San Francisco, and 20,000 vehicles on one stretch of highway all stop at once, everyone will notice that. But for the average American that does not live in a large metropolitan area, it's going to take a minute. That first 60 seconds is going to be very, very surreal because your TV will turn off. Your cell phone will still work, but you won't be able to call. Most people don't know this, but your cell phone is already shielded by law. All cell phones are shielded devices.
I didn't know that.
Your cell phone will continue to work after an EMP, but the cell phone towers and satellites will not. So all your pictures, you're going to get to see them. You're going to be able to, listen to music you have downloaded. You'll be able to see your phone and interact with it, but nothing will work correctly. Your apps will stop to work if they're online serviceable apps. You won't be able to call anybody. Emergency response won't work. So I think the first 60 seconds will be complete, at least shock, where most people won't know what happened. And then you're going to have that instant pandemonium of why is nothing working?
Okay, 24 hours.
24 hours, people are going to start to realize there's something terribly wrong. The emergency broadcast system, which is shielded, will have already announced things. You're going to have the first riots. You're going to have the first panics. You're going to have the first runs on stores. You're going to have bank runs. You're going to have, everyone's like, I'm going to go to Walgreens and raid the drug aisle. I'm going to go to Walmart, raid the ammo aisle. And most people don't think to themselves, I'm going to the veterinary office. So that first 24 hours, go to the vet office. No one else is going to be going there. They're all going to go to Walgreens, Walmart, Target, the mall, the hospitals, all that kind of stuff.
So you go to the veterinarian place, you let out all the animals, and then you go raid their stores.
Take all the any antibiotic that is not for horses, you can take.
See, I thought he was going to say go to the veterinary office and stitch up your bullet wounds from your John Wick moment for the first 23 hours, and then you take home a pit bull and you train it to be this badass dog.
Well, there's that too, yes. But yeah, I would say that your 24 hours where you're going to see the first bank runs, you're going to see the first panic buys. Everyone's going to go to Walmart. It's going to be Black Friday, but all day.
ATMs are going to crash.
You're going to start seeing ATMs are going to get ripped out of walls. You're going to see people getting into fist fights over formula, all that kind of stuff.
What do you mean? Okay, I can't refill my pain pill prescription?
Yeah, so and that's really where it begins. And from that point, people will say, you're being fearful, or tinfoil hat, 80%, 90% of the country will not die if there was an EMP, if everything just stopped working. What they fail to realize is that, right now you live in a world where when something bad happens, the cat goes up in the tree, you call somebody and the fireman comes, or the police come, or whoever comes, you're having a heart attack, the ambulance comes. That stops. Right. There's no more first responders. That's gone, because first of all, those people aren't going to work because they can't go to work. And even if they were, they're going to go back to where their families were. They're not going to stay at work. So, and that might even happen with the military. If the military has families too, and they're not going to want to jump on, a ship and go out and fight when their family's dying, back at home. I think a lot of them are going to leave and go back to their family.
I think so. I think you're going to see mass desertion. And we can even project this out to 72 hours.
72 hours, go.
Yeah, after the first 24 of panic and pandemonium, after 72 hours, most people will have heard through the emergency broadcast system, through local law enforcement who are out on foot. They're going to know what's happening. And they will know what's happening when some of the military vehicles, which are kept in underground storage facilities, pop up and start rolling in to do traffic control points, lock down cities, all this other stuff. You're going to see at 72 hours the total shutdown of the food network across the country. No more trucks are going to Walmart or Target or Hy-Vee or Dillon's. Gas stations will stop pumping. Everybody who was in a prison, a high facility prison, a high security prison where there's electromagnet or the electric locks on the doors, those locks stop working. And there's only so many 12 gauge.
They automatically open everything that's locked. Your apartment doors, your building doors, your hospital doors. Those are all electromagnetic locks. In other words, the law says when the power goes out, they unlock so that they don't lock people inside when there's a fire. Sure. They all unlock. That's what happens.
Well, think about it. When the power is on, they're designed to stay shut. So the obverse happens when the power goes out.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these people are going to be out on the street. Your murderers, your rapists, your what was it? The Arlo Guthrie song, your mother rapers and your father rapers and your mother killers are all going to be on the street, right? And think about everybody on SSRIs, all the crazy people, all the people with split personality disorder, all the people who cannot legally be put in institutions anymore, thanks to Ronald Reagan.
Well, all the people that could but couldn't, They're going to. Like anybody who wanted to do something but couldn't because of the law will be doing that thing. Whatever that thing is, they're going to do it.
It's a blank check.
Well, at least the people with schizophrenia aren't going to be lonely.
It's a true story. It's a true story. But they're not lonely now, to be fair. What I'm really looking forward to is week 1 through 7, where we can break out the fetish leathers, start strapping giant speakers and people to the front of people, and like start, Mad Max, like
right.
That's my Thursday night outfit, anyway.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Think of it this way, man. Yeah. Right now, and I'm going to get into some touchy territory here, but as long as you're cool with it, I'm cool with it. Right now, the last, half a dozen school shooters have all been trans. All of them.
No, every single person that has been recorded as a mass shooter, every single one of them since the first recorded mass shooting has been on some kind of antidepressant, antipsychotic, SSRIs, or something. And
that's right now with electricity. When the lights go out and there is nothing more, and you've run out of your SSRIs, how many more people right now who identify as this, that, or the other, who are on a medication for this, that, or the other, who are no longer being chemically treated and sedated, who have access to their parents' guns or their grandparents' guns or to a machete or to a weed whacker or whatever, is going to go fucking crazy.
Even somebody with
no doubt
significant ADHD. You know, how do you maintain your focus to get the work done when you don't have that medication?
It's going to be very, very bad. So
and this is why they say 80 to 90%. It's not just people killing people. It's basically everybody going nuts. For the most part. And the cities are going to be the worst place to be, because your cities are going to where people are going to be dying by the second in the cities.
I think that this is
the average person has between 3 to 5 days worth of food in their home, right? And the average person does not go 24 hours without eating. So, after 3 to 5 days of your kids' bellies, grumbling, or you hear your wife talking about she doesn't have any more vodka, you're going to go out, you're going to do some roguish shit.
I can't get on Temu. I'm going to go crazy.
I honestly think, as morbid as this may sound, but I think that the people who are going to shine the most or survive or thrive the most are going to be Gen Z preppers.
I think you're probably right.
Why you got to call me out like that, bro?
Well, people from our era, we were the last of the latchkey kids, After 1995, when the internet was officially launched, I mean, we had the internet beforehand, but it was rudimentary, but
BBS boards, college connected, servers.
Yeah. I mean, everybody before that may have a general understanding on how to, do things that we used to do in this country. But there's so many parents that are what are they called? Millennials or whatever they are now.
Gen Z.
Yeah, they didn't teach their kids the stuff that we grew up with. They didn't grow up hunting and fishing and, gathering and doing the things. They grew
building
up
tree forts.
Yeah, they grew up in front of a screen.
Yeah.
So
more importantly, they didn't learn how to fist fight out in, across the school parking lot when they got
exactly.
Into they didn't learn how to get punched in the nose and then keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fine and dandy to talk a lot of smack right up until the point where you get punched right in the face. And
that's
then
right.
There's not enough, especially, and I refrain from even calling them men now, but there was not enough boys for the past 25 or 30 plus years that didn't get in a good old fashioned fist fight and beat the crap out of each other. Like, that's how we grew up, like we predetermined time and a place, and we knew we're both probably going to get the living shit out of both of us, or one or the other, and you learned from it and you moved on. But they don't do that anymore. The toughness, like the actual grit, is gone from so many people in our country.
Most people today, I guess, young men between the ages of 18 and 30 have probably enjoyed more soy lattes than they have fistfights.
Oh yeah, way more. Yeah, and they've had thousands of fights online on computer games.
Oh sure.
Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
you just go to any Call of Duty lobby or X, and you'll see exactly what you're going to be dealing with.
I'm a veteran of the 2022, Call of Duty war. I survived.
It's funny because when my son comes and we go we shoot and we pull out the ARs and the rifles and this and that, and he's like, man, it's so I didn't think it would be this heavy because all he plays is video games.
Oh,
he's like,
man.
I didn't think it'd be that hard to rack it, that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, you're in the real world now, man. This is a deadly weapon. This is not just a game.
When one of my sons was in high school, he came home all upset and huffy puffy about something. And I asked him what was wrong, and he bucked up to me, and I was like, oh, yes, thank God. This is finally the time.
Right. I get to teach.
Yeah. And I was like, go get you a Snickers and a glass of milk, because I'm going to beat your ass up and down the road for a while. So go get that. Let's get
Pack
this
a
work
lunch,
done.
boy.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. So let the listeners know what maybe we can start working on right now. Some things we can start working on right now that are realistic to help prevent loss during an EMP.
I would say the number one thing you can do is to find a group or a mag or form one yourself. You can have all the gear. You can have all the Gucci stuff. You can have all the Faraday bags and EMP shields and lightning shields and all this other stuff you could ever have. But if you don't have a tribe, look, no man is an island, and everybody has to sleep sometime. You need to build friendships. You need to build trust, and you need to build groups of people that you can rely on right now, because you will not be building that group when you are not comfortable. So that's step number one. Get out of your comfort zone, get off your ass, get off the fucking couch, put down the Xbox controller, turn off the football game, and go find some people. Join a mag.
Yep.
Or get on Facebook and just start talking to people. Let's go get some coffee in real life. Let's get off the internet. Stop talking in chat groups. Stop talking on Signal and Discord and Facebook Messenger, and meet people face to face. Learn what it's like to have to confront people with conversation where you make prolonged eye contact.
Okay, and didn't you tell me yourself that you guys are both at one point, and I am an introvert, and you had to come out of that shell? Isn't that right?
Yeah, Keith, I'm an introvert that has to pretend to be an extrovert in order to make a living. So on any given day, my emotional battery is completely empty. But that doesn't stop me from going out there and trying. Because again, at the end of the day, I'm only as good as the 5 people that I surround myself with. I trust Bobby with my life, my wife, my wallet, as Bobby always says, and vice versa. At the end of the day, if Bobby goes out on a LARP patrol and he's gone for 7 weeks at a time, he knows that when he gets back, his wife and his kids are going to be in the exact same condition as he left them, because I've got his back, and vice versa. So developing those concentric rings of trust and security between your mutual assistance group, just your neighbors. Like Jeremy said, he doesn't have a mag, but he has people with skills, and developing those relationships and starting those conversations now, I think that's key. Like Bobby said, getting off your ass and starting something now.
That's certainly step one. Step two would be getting alternative means of power that you can ground. So Faraday bags, batteries, extra stuff for your cell phones, extra stuff for your power tools. Your power tools are an overlooked thing.
Oh my God.
Get some extra batteries for your power tools and put them in Faraday bags and just put them away.
Yeah.
Get a bunch, get one of those battery caddies, fill it with AA, AAA, CD, 9-volt, all the stuff, and put that in a Faraday bag and put it away. Get some extra Baofeng radios, get some extra high-frequency radios, put them in Faraday bags, and put them away. Now, the good news is most testing shows that your weapon lights and weapon sights will not be affected by an EMP. The batteries and the circuit boards and all the stuff in those sights and
There's
lights,
not very much wiring.
It's so small, the footprint is small enough, you will probably still be able to use your batteries or your EOTechs and your CCOs. But if you can get a few things that aren't battery reliant, get some Trichicons, get some RMRs, get some ACOGs, get some of that kind of stuff, so that and learn to use them now, so you have ways to use your weapons, primarily your primary battle rifle, your primary battle pistol, that does not require batteries. I would say that. Get a hand crank weather radio. Practical Survival makes a really good hand crank battery radio, or what am I saying?
Hand crank
Words
battery.
are hard all of a sudden.
Solar.
It's a hand cranked
Dynamo.
weather radio with a solar battery on it and the ability to use it to charge other devices. And Practical Survival are friends of ours. They're also sponsors of Midwest Preparedness Project. Check them out. But they have a really good weather radio. I use it all the time when we have tornadoes here in Kansas. When we get severe weather, I pull that thing out, I crank it up a bit, and I just sit there and listen to the weather when my electricity goes out. That would be step 2 for me, is getting alternative forms of power that's small, that can power your small handheld devices.
Yeah, I would say step 3 in all of this, and these main 3 items here, Jeremy and Keith. Step 3 would be very dynamic in that you learn how to become your own resupply.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, no one is coming to save you unless you have built these, again, concentric rings of support and mutual assistance where you know for a fact that the group down the road or the tribe down the road or the mag down the road, you guys are going to be able to communicate because you did Faraday away that communications equipment. You can barter 22 rounds for extra batteries. You can do all these things, and now you have this resupply chain that you've built yourself. And if you don't know how to do those things, go to www.midwestpreparednessproject.com, search us out on social media, Facebook, Discord. We'll help you. We absolutely will help you free of charge.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Step 4, fire, booze, and tobacco. if you were part of the survivalist boards back when the guy from Bosnia was on there talking about what happened during the Bosnia War, the first 3 things bartered after every emergency that happened during that war in the mid-90s, it wasn't gold, it wasn't silver, it wasn't Bitcoin, it was lighters, it was cigarettes, and it was alcohol. Start putting back boxes of airplane bottles of booze. Start putting back all the stuff to roll your own cigarettes. My wife still smokes, and she uses a little syringer machine, and we buy big bags of tobacco and boxes of 250 pre-made tubes.
She rolls her own prison smokes.
She rolls her own cigarettes, and she can smoke for $30 a month, where most people
awesome, man.
$12 a day. And they're filtered cigarettes. They taste like a real cigarette. You can make menthol. You can make regular. Even if you don't smoke, go buy a cigarette syringer. Go buy a box of 250 pre-filtered tubes is like $3. Go buy that shit at your local smoke shop and buy some bags of pipe tobacco. It's called pipe tobacco because they can only sell it legally as pipe tobacco, but it's regular tobacco. Get 4 bags of menthol for $13 a bag. Get $4 of regular for $13 a bag. Put that shit in Mylar, seal and mail it away, because I promise you, when the lights go out, people's bad habits don't stop. And you will be able to take everybody's shit for a few cigarettes, a few bottles of liquor, and a couple of lighters.
You'll be the king.
This is how we create Bartertown.
Well, okay, is that it? Did you have more?
I would stop there, man, because everything past that is practical application on various levels, honestly.
Yeah, or you know what, Keith? Just give us a couple of months and buy the book.
we'll do it. We'll do it.
There's always the book.
This is honestly a 5-episode or 6-episode conversation. It really is.
Fantastic. We love you guys. We look forward to doing more collaborations with you down the road. You guys are fantastic. Again, Keith, Jeremy, thank you so much for having us on. We really do. We look forward to meeting Keith at the festival because Jeremy said we suck and he's not going to be able to make it. It's cool, Jeremy. My dad left me too. No worries.
Hey, we're down here making knish. I don't know if I can make it. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's the lizard people.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Absolutely great. Hey, you know what? Bounce on your project. Tell everybody about it real quick.
All right. Yeah. May 5 through May 10 this year at Camp Bloomington West at Clinton Lake, Kansas, which is in between Topeka and Lawrence, right on the I-70 corridor. There's no reason you can't show up. It's a week-long camping, family-friendly event. You don't have to camp. You can just show up during the day. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 3 classes a day. The biggest draws are going to be probably Friday and Saturday. On Friday, we have Pastor PJ Fox from Viking Preparedness coming out midday to give a talk. We have boxing champion John Cantrell coming out to give a talk and that's going to be just on Friday. Saturday, your audience might really get off on this one. Saturday, our final act is going to be none other than Randall from Grunt Proof. He is going to be out giving a talk, real talk with Randall from Grunt Proof. So if anybody's a gun tuber or a gearhead or a infantry guy, and you don't know,
going to be there too, right?
Yeah, you don't. And Jake, our buddy from our chats, Jake is going to be out Saturday giving a talk about high frequency radio, Beyond Balefang, and all that kind of stuff.
We just had him on an episode recently.
Yeah, he's going to be one of our presenters. Thursday is not a light day. Thursday, we're going to have Janet, who's going to come out and do, she's from Bohemian Prairie Alchemist, and she's going to be doing Aromatherapy 101. After that, we have a guy named Greg coming out to do a talk specifically on things like solar generators, how to build small arrays, the kind of things that don't draw attention, assessing your power needs. And then Dayton, he's an up-and-coming YouTuber. His name is Dayton from Ballistic Mischief, is going to be out doing a field medic class. So splints, sutures, tourniquets, chest seals, all that kind of stuff. Thursday night, we have an episode. We have a special event in the evening called Grumpy's Seed Exchange. Go on YouTube and look up Grumpy Acres Farm. They're a local YouTube family here in the area, and they've been running a seed exchange. There's only 2 rules. 1, no fiat currency, and 2, nothing that gets me arrested. Kansas is one of the last 4 states that hasn't legalized shit, so don't get me arrested.
Please and thank you. Don't get us shut down.
And then Saturday, we have Bartertown, which is a complete barter event. At the very end of the day, after we've given away the last gun, we've given away the last prize, you will watch the entire campground transform into Bartertown. People throw out blankets, they pull up tables, they set up little booths. And the only 2 rules, again, no fiat currency and nothing that gets me arrested, because we are on Army Corps of grounds. Don't try to sell guns. You're going to get me arrested. Don't do it.
Yeah, Keith Germain is the wildest thing you've ever seen. It's like Burning Man meets Norman Rockwell. It's like the quintessential I don't know, version of Bartertown that you would like to see without people, having to walk around with shotguns, slung over their shoulder, providing security. Although I see us reaching that point sometime down the road, but not today. But we also have youth events. We have kids events from Thursday through Saturday. Our fantastic youth coordinator, Christy, she goes out of her way to work her magic to give the kids an opportunity so that, while the mom and dads are participating in the classes, the kids can be doing stuff as well. Bobby works his ass off to make sure that these things are scheduled so that in tandem, you don't have to decide whether, mom wants to go attend this class and dad attends this class. We keep our show very streamlined so that way you have the opportunity to attend all the classes together as a family, because at the end of the day, we are not your grandpa's prepper show.
Yep, this ain't your daddy's prepper show. It's not just a bunch of white guys with beards bitching about Obama and talking about bug-out bags. Yep. We have absolutely progressed past that. It's a family-friendly event. We want to be your vacation. That's the whole point.
Spags, Pat, awesome, man. You guys are welcome anytime you want to come on the show. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Keith. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having us, sir.
My prepper brothers and sisters, and survivors of the event. It didn't take long for the world to come to an end. Small pockets of survivors cling to each other like frost on blades of grass, waiting to melt away. They can't agree on how it started, just that it came from the sky. Truth be told, no one was unaffected by the weaponized electromagnetic pulse, and most were convinced it was the beginning of the end. Those of us who thought we were prepared were taking it day by day, though not unscathed, surviving, barely thriving, but alive and well nonetheless. Oh, we took some losses, unimaginable losses, that were believed by some to be out of our control. I didn't agree, but in the end, does it really matter? We work, we rest, we fight, and when moments are quiet, we mostly just think. Think about days gone by, lost friends, what we had and what we miss in this new world. I find myself thinking about what's still out there. How many survived the first year of darkness? How many were prepper survivalists like us? Because I'll tell you, it's a lot harder than we imagined it ever would be. And we were the prepared, but just barely. So if you're out there, come find us. Stay safe, stay vigilant, stay whole. Day 411. End daily broadcast. Bunker 6, out.